I love that sound. You? Welcome, friends gathered in the sanctuary, on Zoom, and later on our YouTube channel. It is so good to be together. I see faces that I haven't seen for a while. I see a full deck. Wow. Yay. Let's go yay. Oh. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Franklin, to the Smoky Mountains of western North Carolina and northeast Georgia, and the ancestral home of the Cherokee people. We're a lay-led congregation of progressive minds and caring connections. My name is Jill Ellard, and I'm delighted to be here to be your service leader today. It's just such a full house. Woo. Yeah, okay. Visitors, we extend a warm welcome to those visiting with us for the first time or those returning after a while. It's so good to have you with us, and we look forward to getting to know you better. There will be an opportunity to introduce yourself later in the service, and to sign up for our newsletter, there's a guest book in the foyer, then you'll get the UU View. As we gathered each Sunday, and we take a moment to greet each other on Zoom and here in the sanctuary, affectionately known as the Zoomies and the Roomies. Please rise in body and spirit, and let's wave our hello and stay standing for our gathering song. Yay! Hey there. Hymn 123, you guys all should know this then.
It's in the gray book if you need the words. And we're going to do the sign language, so for the visitors, we're not just flapping around. It's part of our commitment.
Hymn number 123, Spirit of Life by Carolyn McDade, Capo 2.
A new version.
Spirit of life, come to me, see in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
I had an instance last week. I had a lady who was fully deaf who came into my sim lab, and I had another woman come on and I say, I only know a few words. And I don't think compassion and life will help me anything when we're talking about a mannequin. So I think I need to work on that. But it was funny. She laughed too. Please, this simple act of connections remind us that despite our differences, we are all part of a loving community. I think that's in the wrong spot. How did I do that? We appreciate our Sunday service team, Warren, Becky, Edgar, Ben, Penny on Zoom. Did we have greeters today? Yeah, well, we probably need to have regular greeter. If you have a chance, we would love for you to sign up for that regularly. And Karen, are you working downstairs? Yay. Folks, she always says she's wonderful. Is there any fellowship announcements? For our Zoomy friends, we're happy to loan you a hymnal to follow along with the hymns and the readings. Penny would be happy to take down your requests. We also suggest that you may want to have a chalice or a candle to light when our chalice is lit in the sanctuary. Roomies, we remind you that there's coloring kits underneath the table over there. And we encourage folks to stay healthy by using the supplies in the foyer, and join us by Zoom if you're not feeling well. If anyone happens to test positive or significantly sick, please contact our president, Drew Lowry. Be sure to keep up with the up-to-date events by checking the UU View, our website, and the bulletin board downstairs. Questions? Nope. Our fellowship is a light for liberal religion in the mountains that values the diversity and the richness that it brings to our community. Our celebrations of diversity are reflected in a variety of our Sunday services. In addition to different topics, our service sequence and length sometimes varies. We hope today's service will enrich your journey of discovery. Today we welcome back Tom Tyre. Yay. Judith is going to help me with this chalice lighting.
There Judith goes. Scamper penguin.
As we light this chalice, we rekindle the flame of awareness, the same mindful attention that the Buddha spoke in centuries ago. This light represents not conversion, but curiosity, not dogma, but discovery. May it illuminate the wisdom that flows between the traditions, reminding us that truth in its many faces and compassion has no boundaries. It is this sacred space we honor both as UU, in our UU heritage, and the ancient teachings that invite us to wake up to this precious moment. Yay. Our opening words. We gather this moment in this morning as seekers on a shared journey, drawn together by curiosity and the desire to understand wisdom wherever it may be found. Our speaker will guide us through the teachings of Buddha, not as converts, but as students, not to abandon our own paths, but to enrich us with insights from another tradition. The Buddha taught us about suffering and its end, about mindfulness and compassion, about the interconnectedness of all life. Those are not foreign concepts to us as Unitarian Universalists. We echo these in our own principles, the inherent worth and dignity of every person, the interdependence of the web of existence, a call to justice and for peace. We come with open hearts and curious minds, ready to learn what the Buddha might teach us about living with greater awareness, deep compassion, and clear understandings. May this exploration deepen your own practice and broaden the vision of what it means to be human. Please stand for our first opening hymn, hymn 16, "'Tis a Gift to Be Simple."
Tis the gift to be simple, 'tis the gift to be free, 'tis the gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in a place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, till by turning we come round right. 'Tis the gift to be simple, 'tis the gift to be free, 'tis the gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained. To bow and to bend we shan't be ashamed. To turn, turn will be our delight, till by turning, turning we come round right.
I'm going to murder this person here, so you're going to have to help me there. This morning, we are delighted to have our longtime friend, Tom Tyre. The Reverend Tom Tyre is an interfaith minister who is leading a non-secular Buddhist fellowship in Franklin. He's also the director of Butu, a choir that has been singing in Franklin since 2009. Tom has been a student of Buddhism for more than 40 years and took his vows where?
Geshe Pelge.
Geshe Pelge, a former member of the Tibetan Parliament in exile and a visiting professor at Eastern Washington University. He is here with us with his talk, Get Happy at Least Occasionally, Be Content almost all the time. And yes, you will be sad sometimes. Tom Tyre. I'm flirting, and it comes out right.
It is such a pleasure to be with you here today. I have such a fondness for this congregation. I so appreciate that here in the mountains, this is the little liberal light that shines. A safe place for alphabet people. Do you know who they are? I can't really list all the letters anymore. It's gotten too long, so I just call it the alphabet people. But anyway, I'm grateful that this is a place that people can come and be themselves and be with you and feel the love that this place generates. It's a wonderful thing. A couple of weeks ago, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, someone had written in the rants and raves section of our paper. If you don't read that, then you're probably better off. But every once in a while, someone will tell us all what God says. And so that happened the other day, and he said that God gave us free will. So you don't have to be alphabet people. You just have to make up your mind that you're not. So I went back through my little records of a lot of the sermons that I had done through the years, especially when I was traveling for the UUA and talking in churches all over the place. And I had a copy of this thing that's called A Letter to Laura. I don't know if you've ever seen it or not, but the first thing that the author of the letter did was said, "Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Laura, for setting us straight on all of these things, because we really, we need to understand what an abomination it is that there are homosexuals. But I do have a few questions." And so what the guy does in the letter is he lists all of the other crazy things that go in that same little section of Leviticus where that's from. And so one of them is about having slaves. And in Leviticus, it says it's okay to have slaves, but you can't have them from your country. You have to get them from another country. So the guy's question was, would it be okay for me to go to Canada and get me a few slaves and bring them back? And so when we think about that and think about the things that are in the Hebrew Bible, in the Testament, it was a document created in its own time. It was for the people who were having lots of stress and turmoil in their lives. And so through the years, the guidance in there was pretty good, and it was what they needed then. But you have to look at it in a historical text. Next time I come, I'll bring the letter and read the whole thing to you. It's wonderful. If we really followed the rules in Leviticus, then we couldn't play football because you're not supposed to touch pig skin. So we'd be in such trouble these days, wouldn't we? Especially on Sundays. So I have to say I brought some some teaching aids today. I have some books. Some of them are fairly recent and some of them are really old that I brought, and some that I've had for a long time and some that I've had just gotten recently. I love to read Buddhist books about people who have gone to these monasteries and lived there and learned the teachings, and then they come back to their old lives. They're totally changed people. But while they're there, they're there for the duration, and one day they wake up and they go, "What the hell am I doing here?" And so they think, I'll never have the cultural skills that the people in this particular sect have. And I just wanted to read a real quick thing. This is about a guy. He was from Holland. In the 60s, 50s and 60s, he went to Japan and stayed in a Zen monastery. And so while he was there, he was a young man then. While he was there, he really tried hard. He tried everything. He wanted to fit in so much. He was willing to put up with a lot of abuse there in the monastery. He reports that there was a lot of jealousy, a lot of kind of elbowing to get to places that you would be a little more important. And so he was writing about this. He said, hold on one second. He said that when he realized that he would never be capable of really having the vocabulary that everyone else had, it would always be difficult. And he was always looked down upon because he had a pink face. And so the rest of not all of them, but many of the men in the monastery with him didn't want him there and let him know that very plainly. And so he was brave enough and bold enough and had enough oomph to him that he stayed there for years until he decided, this is really just not for me, I'm going home. So he did go home, but he couldn't put down what he learned. So what he did was he became a teacher in Holland. And then he ran across one other white guy that was there at the monastery with him, a guy named Peter, who was the one they called the pink-faced one. And he ran into him at an airport. He said, "Peter, are you still at the monastery?" And he said, "No, but I have a monastery in Maine." And so this happened in Europe where they met, oddly enough. And so he said, "I'd like to come and sit with you. Is that a good thing to do?" And so Peter said, "Please do. Yes, come." So the guy ends up going, and they have sort of a reminiscence together about what it was like to be there. And then they started talking about what they learned from being there. And so in this conversation, they realized that the both of them had turned into sort of what they had intended, only in a different way. They were never going to be this hardcore Zen twosome, but they were always going to have the lessons with them, and they would always be able to share that with the people that they were around. This I'm going to thank my friend Kathy for turning me on to this. Thank you, Kathy. This guy is a fairly new Buddhist, and he goes by the name of Timber Hawkeye. He has a podcast that's really pretty nifty if you want to listen to him. But he was a young man who grew up in Israel, moved to San Francisco with his parents, and so grew up there, and he was out of place there, as you might imagine. He had to learn to speak English. He also was shocked to see that one day people were bringing Christmas trees home on the top of their car, and wondered what was going on. What is this strange madness that the Americans are doing here? So he too had the same experience, and he at one point went to a Tibetan monastery, And he too tried really hard to be a Tibetan. Well, that is not so easy to pull off. So he had the same experience. They sort of looked down on him and like, oh, another white guy, we have to put up with this, and complain to the teacher. And so he was having a meeting with his teacher about his practice and his meditation. And here's what he says. He says, I sat there in front of the Tibetan Lama wearing my maroon robes after years of studying Buddhism. With all due respect, I said, I don't believe the Buddha ever intended for his teachings to be this complicated. His teacher looked around at all the statues of deities in the rooms that had multiple arms. And he chuckled and he said, Buddha didn't do this. The Tibetan culture did this. This is their way. Why don't you try Zen? So he did. He went to a Zen monastery, and as you might imagine, it was not quite as difficult because nowadays there are Zen monasteries in the United States. And so he was able to go to one in the United States and do that. But what he also discovered is the same thing, the same selfishness, the same envy, the same that all of us carry with us all the time. And we have this notion in our heads that the people at the monastery are so cosmic, they don't make any errors. And, so we hold them in high regard. And I remember the very first Buddhist priest that I met, a monk, and I didn't really know one sect from the other at the time. And so I was so excited to meet him, and that guy was crazy as a bat. And it just kind of burst my bubble, and I thought, well, I thought that they're supposed to fix all that. You go to the monastery, and then when you come out, you just have no faults, and you're nice to everybody, and you're kind, and, everything smells like roses. So this notion that we have of going to these places and coming back a different person is true, and it's not true. We do come back a different person, but we're not the person we wanted to come back to be because we still have character defects. Very interesting thing to me. So I'm talking about this because my experience with the teachers that I've had has been really wonderful, and it's also been strange. Geshe Pelge, the geisha that I took my vows with, came to a little town where I was living. It's probably a town of 3,000 people. He was from California because he's a teaching professor there at a university. But he was in this little town because he was taking a break from that and came to visit a neighbor of mine who was hosting for a couple of weeks. And so for those 2 weeks, he taught us pretty much all day and into the night. And so a lot of people would come just for parts of it, but I lived 2 blocks away. So I was able to go there and be with him every day. And he was so consistent. He was so kind, and he was nice. And I thought, that's what I was looking for. I'm not looking to go to some exotic environment and trying to pretend to be a Tibetan Buddhist. That's never going to happen to me. For 2 things that cause that is because of Unitarian Universalism. Because I doubt everything. And it's a good thing. But you know what? Geshe Pelge took an interest in me. And he was, I thought, well, he probably does this with everybody. He probably shows this kindness for everybody, and he did, but he would pull me aside and he'd tell me things, and I'd go, I wonder why he told me that. And I'd sit with it a while, and then I'd come back the next day and I'd ask him questions. He never forgot anything he or I said when we'd get together. I forgot most of it. So I'd ask him questions, and he said, oh, that's not what you said yesterday. And I go, this is freaky. I'm scared. But the thing about it, he was so loving and so free that it didn't really occur to me that he was being harsh or anything. And so my friend Gary that was hosting him at the end of the 2-week period said, Tom, you should take your vows with Geshe while he's here. And it never occurred to me to ask for that. And so I thought, well, what would that mean to me? What would it mean in the vows if I did this? And, here comes my yu-yu-ism up. What does this mean? And so I thought about it, and I thought, well, you know what? I'm not going to question this, because how many times would I have an opportunity like this? And I realized just how rare it was. And so I asked him if I could take my vows with him. My buddy Gary said, I've already taken my vows, but I'm going to do it again with you. So that made it a little easier. So we took the vows mostly in a language that was foreign to me. The intent I knew, and basically what I was signing up for was that I was going to make it my intent to share the Dharma with as many people as I could, even though I had no qualifications, I had no blessings from anybody to go do it, except from him saying, now when you go, you live this and you share with the people that you come across. That is what you're saying you're going to do here. Are you still willing to go through with this? And I said yes. And so it was confusing, it was magical, it was wonderful, and it was strange, and I found myself face down on the floor with my arms out in front of me, and I was repeating the vows that he was saying for me to repeat, and it just felt so exotic. And I just thought, I can't believe I'm doing this, but I'm glad I'm doing this. So when I left, it was wonderful. He had been there 2 years, and each year I would go and stay with him for those 2 weeks that he was here. So the first year, I took my vows. The second year, when I was there, it was before two friends of this congregation, Steve and Rob, were getting married. And so I asked him to bless these scarves for them, for their marriage. So I knew I was going to be officiating their ceremony, and so I really wanted to do something that just really would be meaningful to them and to everybody. Most of you didn't know about all that, but you just knew I showed up with the scarves. And so, so it was a wonderful thing, and I just thought, this is what I want to always do. So I guess I've become sort of a dyed-in-the-wool Buddhist, but kind of rebellious one, because I don't follow the rules too well, and I, like I said, I've been ruined by yu-yu-ism because I question most everything. And I've come to encourage other people to do that, and sometimes we sit around together and question everything. And sometimes it turns into bitching, and sometimes it's just questioning everything. I love the Dalai Lama. He is, of course, a Tibetan Buddhist, and probably the best-known Buddhist in the world, I would say. And so these folks were going to interview him while he was in the United States, and they were a man and a woman, and they were really hoping for this to be a real event where everybody would be transformed into these celestial beings, and then when they left, they would be dripping with love and compassion. And so they said, Dalai Lama, please give us your wisdom. And he said, I have learned how to pass gas on an airplane. His interviewers were horrified. They didn't really know what to do or what to say after that, so he continued. He said, here's how you do it. Like, even if you're in a middle seat, what you can do is just kind of raise one cheek and then quietly let it out, and it's such relief. And so they didn't know how to proceed from that. There's, I think, a video either of that happening or of somebody telling the story of it happening. I'd come across it a couple of times, but after that I thought, he's my hero. He's the one. He's the dude. Because what he wanted to do was to kind of bring it down a level. This is not this is not something so precious and so rare that you must have every moment be sacred. So what he did was he just kind of lightened it up for everybody. And I guess he probably knew that they would be startled by his response. But he was willing to do that just to bring it down a level, to make it sort of everybody's wisdom. And if that includes learning how to pass gas on an airplane without getting caught at it, power to you. So one other book that I brought today, this one is fairly recent, and it's written by a guy who is a former Marine, and he was in Asia in several places and came across Buddhism and sort of caught the fever. And after he came back from a tour of duty in Afghanistan, he decided that he wanted to know more about Buddhism, and he also was going to want to try to go to Pakistan for some reason to learn more. He managed to have somebody talk him out of the Pakistan part, so he went to Sri Lanka instead. And so Sri Lanka has the unique position where it is the holder of the oldest teachings in Buddhism. That's in around 1200, in the current era, the Muslims invaded India and killed as many Buddhists as they could, but the Hindus were a little more warlike than the Buddhists, and so they put up a good fight. But the Buddhists left. Some went up north, Tibet and China. Others went to Sri Lanka, and some of the others went east into what's now Bangladesh and even as far as Burma. So he got sidetracked, ended up at a monastery in Sri Lanka. And so he stayed there for a number of years, and he came back, and he was just so pleased with this. And, you know, he's glad he did it, but when he came back, he realized, I'll never be a Sri Lankan. I'll never culturally understand what they understand when they're there together. But I do have this, and I can teach that when I get home, and that's what he did. So he had this one thing, and this is about one of the segments of the Eightfold Path, about right thought. And so he goes, right thought is what you need to pull all this stuff together. The ability to see the world naked. And then it turns you into someone who sheds selfish desire, ill will, thoughts of violence and evil, hatred and anger. Why? Because they're foolish wastes of time, that's why. These thoughts and feelings are harmful and destructive to you and to others. The people who do the most conspicuous overconsumption, the most hate-mongering, and the most violence-generating do not do so because they're evil. It's because they're ignorant. They don't know the truth. They don't get that big deal that they're making about themselves or their issues and don't see that that amounts to shinola. They lack wisdom. They suffer from ignorance. That's right, they're morons. So this guy, in order to bring the wisdom back, he wants to make it palatable to people. It's not this mysterious thing that you're going to, go and do and all of a sudden have the transformation. So he wrote this book, and it says, Buddhism for Dudes. And I always have to say, or dudettes. There's a lot of wisdom in it. It's practical wisdom. And so I decided a long time ago that I wanted to be a practical Buddhist. That I don't really need to learn foreign languages to chant, although if you want to do that and it's meaningful to you, I would highly recommend it. So the whole issue with this, if we look at it clearly, is that this is the world's most recent really good attempt, and I'm saying most recent in the long range of the millions of years that the earth has been around. Siddhartha Gautama, who's the Buddha, decided he wanted to really find out why there's so much suffering in the world. It didn't make any sense. What do we do about this? And so he tried everything that he could think of before he got to the one that set best with him. And how that happened was he had been starving himself in the woods with several other hippies at the time, and they were being gurus in the woods, and like good gurus, they were torturing themselves by not eating, not sleeping, not drinking water much, and not doing anything. And he just had this epiphany one day. He said, I am killing myself. How is this going to make me a more spiritual person? I don't want to do this anymore. And so he got up, and about that time, someone came by, a girl came by and gave him some food, and he hadn't eaten in weeks. And so he took the bite of food, and he just knew that it was the right thing to do. He thanked profusely the little girl that did it, and then he made a beeline back to his hippie buddies in the woods to tell them what happened. And so when they saw him coming, they said, oh, here comes trouble. He can't even keep up with us. Who the hell is he now? And so when he got closer, they realized there was something different. There was something different about him. And so they said, are you a god now or something? Are you, what happened to you? What are you? And he said, I'm awake, finally. And so to be a Buddha means to be awake. So if you're calling yourself a Buddhist, you would be an awakenist. So awake to what? Well, he had some wisdom around that. And so what he does in his teaching, he says, well, there are 4 things that you really need to understand about life. And if you can get this stuff down, then you can follow some simple instructions and be content. He didn't say happy. He said, you follow these instructions and you can have some contentment in your life. So the 4 things that he taught in the very beginning, the first one is, there is a lot of suffering in life, in living. It's the price we pay to live. The second one was, suffering always has causes. And the third one is that the end of suffering is possible by stopping the causes of suffering. So his whole little thing on this first little self-help tour that he was doing in India was about people waking up to how we create our own suffering. What do we do to create our own suffering? Well, we're selfish. We're greedy. We get angry way too easy. We're highly offended that people don't take us to be the wonderful people we think we are. All of these things that work against us. And so what happens if you get offended, the thing is an emotion pops up. Usually it's anger. They don't know who I am, So if you can really understand that we create most of our suffering that we have, if you're hit by a tree limb falling in the woods when you're hiking, that's not your fault, usually. But what he wanted us to see is the kind of suffering that we have in our lives. Most of it is suffering that we cause ourselves. Mark Twain understood this because he is famous for having made this quote. My life has been filled with terrible mishappenings, and some of them actually happened. So I think Mark Twain was probably a Buddhist. From that, I'm going with that. Mark Twain was a Buddhist. So the last thing that he said, here's the simple instructions that I'm having for you in order to overcome these things. And so he laid it out very clearly. At our little Buddhist fellowship that we have that meets once a month on the second Sunday, we always read the Four Noble Truths, and we always read the Eightfold Path, and we always read the secular Buddhist credo. And so Our friend Chris Cassis has read the Credo at every meeting we've had for the past 3 years. And so now he's gotten to read it with a pretty good flair, you know, and so it's wonderful that he does that. And so what has happened is we've turned into a little group of people who encourage each other when this gets hard. When these directions get to be a little bit too much for us, then we have each other, you know, to say, well, keep going. Yeah, this was just a minor setback. You know, if something happens in the news, you know, and people are upset, we're able to really kind of process that. So some of the newer folks are not as likely to participate. The real magic happens after the meeting is over, when we have refreshments and everybody is. It's a wonderful thing. The room is glowing, you know, because people are there with this same common denominator, and that is that they have an affection for Buddhism and the teachings of the Buddha. So here are the directions. 1, you've got to have right view. Knowing the truth of suffering, that freedom from suffering is possible, and how you can live a life without suffering. Now, I have to do a little addendum to the without suffering. I'm going to say self-created suffering. When things happen to you, you don't have to be happy about it. When sad things happen in your life, if you get sick, you know, it's not that you did something wrong, it's just that you got sick. You know, so that's suffering when you're sick. So we're not talking about alleviating that. But what we're trying to do, and you've probably all heard this, yes, you might suffer some pain, you might have pain, but you don't have to suffer, meaning the mental torture that goes along with it. So this is what he's trying to get us to learn how to do, to separate what we can do something about and then accept what we cannot. The second one is right intention, intending to wake up and help others. Well, I know bukus of people who go to Buddhism because they want to be enlightened. What the hell does that mean? Does that mean you're not going to ever make mistakes again? Everybody's going to like you. You'll get to be the prom king. Yeah. You're going to sing and everybody adores it. So, you know, that's just that's kind of overshooting the mark. So what we're really wanting to do is to be content with our lives, to be contented. So the right intention when we're supposed to wake up and help others, you know, if you've ever helped anybody else do anything, that is the best feeling you can have for yourself, is to really be of help to someone else. And it just makes you walk on air. And it's so easy, but we also are just a little selfish, and I don't have time to do that. I have to fess up. I'm a really lousy Buddhist sometimes. When we got to the third circle yesterday, we were having a wedding at 2 p.m, and there was an old truck parked in the front that was kind of across the parking areas and not in a place that would really stop us from getting in. But I decided to be irritated about that. Because that's sort of, you know, I go there first and then I have to reel it back and go, oh, you know, somebody left this, let's get to the bottom of the story. The fellow left a note. He said, I'm so sorry I ran out of gas here. Please don't haul off my car. And so if he hadn't left the note, I would have called somebody to haul off his car. And so it was there until long after the wedding was over and everybody was going home. The newlyweds came back because they forgot something. They couldn't get in the parking lot because the tow truck was there. And so I went to talk to the fellow. He was an amputee, he had one leg, had left his truck there. He said that he was trying to work. He delivers pizza for a living, and he wasn't able to work. But that the tow truck was coming, and everything was going to be all right. And so I just thought, oh, I get it now. You know, we don't know when those things are going to happen. We don't know the story that the other people have to tell. But my impulse was first to get a little angry and then walk back from that. And then I got the reward of meeting this young fellow who was just struggling to make a living. It was a big lesson for me. So the third thing in the Eightfold Path is right speech. Speaking in harmonious ways and avoiding hurting others through your speech. How clear can that be? Right action, acting in harmonious ways and avoiding hurting others through your actions. 5, right livelihood, finding work that is useful, meaningful, non-harming, and expresses who we are in the world. I love that last part. When we do a job, it should be the job that we are naturally inclined to do. If it's a natural inclination for you to make a lot of money, then you might do that. But if you have a natural inclination to, let's say, help people, you might be in the medical profession. You could do it like some of the people who in our country make a lot of money. They don't really hoard their money. They give it away for good causes. And so I see a place for them to do that. I see a place for people to help physically, maybe in helping other people. It could be, a community project of any kind where you're helping. So what that means is using our talents, our natural inclinations to help others. Right effort, putting our beliefs and understanding wholeheartedly into practice. I can tell you right now from my own experience that one is always changing. My beliefs and understanding change every day. I'll never graduate. I ain't going to be enlightened. I don't care. Right mindfulness. These last two are the ones that everybody kind of get tangled up in. Right mindfulness, paying careful attention to what's happening. That's pretty clear. So I wasn't paying attention yesterday to what feelings popped up with me when the pickup truck was there. I wasn't paying attention to that emotion. I was just riding that emotion. And so I think, okay, boy, I can really do this one a lot better than I ordinarily do. The 8th one is right concentration, the inner ability and calm that allows us to focus on what is helpful to ourselves and to others. So here's the hardcore skinny about all of this stuff. All of these things, some of them are the part where we just kind of wake up to this. We kind of understand as much as we are able to when we get to the part where it says to have right view. And that's a right understanding of the how-tos that we go, the little list of 8 things. So with our little bit of understanding that we have in the beginning starts to grow. And so it grows because number 7 and number 8, right, mindfulness and right concentration become stronger. How many of you in here go to the gym? Ever go to the gym, the health center? Okay. However, how many of you play music? Okay. So here's the deal about that. When we go to the gym, we're working out, not because we're going to be really pretty and everybody will say, oh, you look so good. It's because we want to be stronger and we want to be fit. Fit for what? Whatever happens. So when we're doing this, it's like an exercise routine, particularly the last 2, right mindfulness and right concentration. So what happened to me? Is my time up?
But I think everybody's enjoying it, so I hate to interrupt.
Well, I'll bring it to a close.
You keep going.
So one of these things enables us to have better insight. So just the simple fact of learning how to concentrate really deeply is an art. It's a mental exercise. It's the same as going to the gym, only you're doing it with your brain. And so what they're all telling you is watch your breath. Well, just count your breath, watch your breath. Well, that's not easy. So what you do is, it may not be the prescription for you to watch your breath when you meditate. Yours might be to do a mantra. But if you do that mantra, you're concentrating on what that mantra means, how it feels to you as you're saying it. So you focus your concentration, and as you do that, you become better able to focus your concentration. And when you get to the point when you can do that, all of a sudden, you're able to have more insights to your life. You're able to see through things rather than ride every emotion that comes up for you. You're able to catch that more quickly and go, oh, this is not the way I want to go. I can observe this, I can get a little angry, I can get a little bit upset, but I'm not going to take that to the bank. So what happens usually is when people sit down to meditate, they sit down and their brain goes crazy because it doesn't want to meditate. It wants to think about everything you could possibly think of in the shortest amount of time. And so I have a friend named Gail, and so I was telling her about the Buddha Club, and she goes, I can't do that because my brain will never sit still. And I thought, well, I think everybody who sits down to meditate says the same thing, because it's not an easy thing to do. It takes work. You have to go to the mental gym and work out. So the ability to have insight about our own emotions and the trouble that they cause us, and our own motives and the trouble that they could cause us. Or sometimes it's when you do something really good for somebody, then you feel that nice little warmth that you have inside, and you think, yeah, that's what I'm supposed to do. Why do I forget that? Why do I forget that? So I would encourage all of you to try your hand at meditation. There's more instruction than you can shake a stick at on the internet. But I would like to see a meditation group here again. I know there was one for a while, and it was really good. I'd like to see that happen again, because when you have somebody to report back to, your buddies, you're more likely to meditate. Because everybody comes in, you go, oh, yeah, how's your meditation going? Oh, yeah. Or, I meditated 6 times. Is that, oh, really? Since last week? Yeah, that's great. So, but it's still an encouragement. And so what you have to do is, one size does not fit all with Buddhism. You have to really find the mechanics, the tools to use for you. And then you have to put your feet in motion and actually stick to your guns. There are times when you just cannot meditate in the day. For me, if something big is happening that day, I know my mind is not going to cooperate. So I don't meditate that morning, but I meditate later, and when my mind is calm. So you learn things like that about yourself. And you learn not to beat yourself up because you didn't meditate this morning. It's okay. You're not ever going to get to the point where you meditate every day, because things happen, and you just have to go with it. I wish you well in your practice. I hope that you are all happy and contented today. And I wanted to tell you there's a big cake downstairs that I brought from the wedding yesterday, and there's enough for you to have probably 2 slices each. It's a giant cake. The wedding was little, but the cake was huge. Anyway, enjoy.
Request for a talk back, but considering what time it is, can we do it? Is it okay if we do it downstairs? No? It's the folks on the web is the ones that miss out, right? Is that what the comment was? So let's have 2 questions for Tom. How about that? Let's limit it.
Have 2.
How about 1 question?
Anybody?
A Zoom question? Is there any Zoom questions? Oh, we only have 1 person on Zoom at the moment. All right. Yes. Could you come to the? Well, he's got a. Here's a mic. We A, like to hear it, and B, we want to.
I won't hear you on Zoom. Spoke about the circle. I passed by and seen that you just said that every other Sunday you read. And I'm asking if, hello?
You want to know when we meet?
Yes.
Okay. We meet the second Sunday of every month, and we meet at 9 o'clock. And the reason that we do that is you can come there if you want to and be here
And
at
then-
11.
Yeah, that sounds great. And could I bring a friend, or is it open to everybody? And is there any parameters around that?
Well, what would you think?
I wouldn't think so. Honestly, that question's coming from something that somebody had said to me one time that inferred that perhaps there was a little closeness to the group, which I found very strange to think that there was.
Well, here's the deal. We don't recruit. You know, I mean, I guess I did today and here if you want to come.
Don't recruit.
But I will tell you this, I don't recruit people that I don't think are amenable to it.
Right.
You know, so people in this room, I have no concerns about anybody
Right.
coming. But if we don't know who's coming, sometimes we don't have enough chairs.
I see.
But
Do we
yes, if you want to come, please come. If you feel better coming with someone else, bring them.
Well, usually, actually, I travel by myself. I just wondered. Okay, well,
Thank you very
that
much.
sounds good.
Okay.
You're welcome.
There are a lot of people in this room who come. Would you raise your hands if you come to the Buddha group? So you could ask them and they will tell you almost anything.
We got a lot of Buddhists. I'll quickly go through the other parts of our service. Thank you, Tom. How about a... In the Buddhist tradition, there is a practice called dana. Is that correct? Am I pronouncing it right? The gift of giving that creates no debt, no expectations, no return, that flows from the generosity of heart. When we give freely, we participate in the ancient cycle of compassion and connecting to all folks. All beings, I said folks. Our offering today supports not just this congregation, but the wider work of creating spaces where wisdom can be shared across traditions. When curiosity is welcomed, when the search for truth continues, whether our gift is large or small, whether it comes from abundance or sacrifice, it joins the river of generosity and it sustains the common life. As the Buddhist thought, if you knew what I know about the power of giving, you would not let a single meal pass without sharing it in some ways. Let us give as we are able, not from obligation, but from the joy of participating in something larger than ourselves. Please give generously to the life and work of our congregation. And so let us dedicate the gifts. There's let's do that first. Gifts given and love and hope, continuous cycle, love and hope. So may it be. Thank you for your support. All financial gifts are appreciated. Visitors. It's a joy to welcome visitors this morning. If you'd like to introduce yourselves, if you've not been here in a while, please raise your hand on Zoom first. We just have Penny, I think, at the moment. And now in the sanctuary, a greeter will bring you a microphone. Do we have any visitors or folks that have been gone for a while that'd like to say hello? We have one over here. Yellow.
Jim and Carol McDonald from Palatka, Florida.
Wow.
Our UU congregation down there is the All Souls congregation, and we actually are blessed with having a pastor to lead us, and very, very good fortune, a great group. If any of you are in Palatka, please stop by, join us on a Sunday.
Excellent. We have one here. Folks I haven't seen in ages. I have a couple folks that I haven't seen in ages.
Hi, I'm Bob. This is Janice. We're the Schroeders. We were members of this UU for a long time. Then we moved to Florida for various reasons, especially for great-grandchildren. And we're members down there now. And it's great to come back here every once in a while and see everybody again. And
We're so
really,
glad to
really
see
appreciate this fellowship. Thank you.
Well, Virginia, haven't seen you in ages either. You what?
I'm going to be better.
Wonderful. This is great. You want to be here more often? Yes, that's wonderful. Anyone else like to introduce themselves? What a joy it is. Please come downstairs to join us for coffee and conversation. Let's hurry along, considering what time it is. Let's have our closing song, which is hymn number 118, This Little Light of Mine. I'm sure we all know that. Please stand as you're willing and able. You're able? Vice version. Good going, Jim.
This little light of mine, I won't let it shine. This little light of mine, I won't let it shine. This little light of mine, I won't let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Oh, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Judith, do you want to come up and help me extinguish? Huh? Yes. Oh, well, yes, we have joys and concerns. Now the last pebble that we will remember those who have spoken, those who have named, and those we hold in the silence of our hearts. Now we take a moment to have a moment of silence. You may choose to meditate, pray, reflect on something you heard today here, or sit silently in the company of others. I'll bring you back with the sound of the chimes. As we prepare to leave this sacred space, we carry with us the Buddha's invitation to wake up. Yeah, to see clearly, to love deeply, to act wisely. We touch something ancient and enduring today, wisdom that has guided seekers for over 2 millennium. The Buddhist past speaks of Sangha, right? Did I say it right? Of taking refuge. In Buddha, the tradition of Dharma, teaching, and Sangha, the community. Today we have the refuge of our own capacity for awareness and in the teaching that resounds the truth, and in that beloved community that supports our searching. So, did Judith? Come back. Okay, I'll just do it. As this flame returns to darkness, we remember Buddha's final words. All conditioned things are impermanent. Work out our salvation with diligence. Nothing lasts forever, not our troubles, not our joys, not even this moment, but in this space between lighting and extinguishing, we share something precious. May we walk gently on the earth. May we listen deeply in the world around us. May we greet each moment with the fresh eyes of a beginner, and may we never lose our sense of wonder at the wonderfulness, the mystery of being alive. And as that goes out, the way continues. Go well, my friends. Turned out itself. Magic. Thank you for joining us today. Following the service, those on Zooms are encouraged to continue conversation. If there's any in there, we invite you to coffee and conversation downstairs. Next week, we explore the missing native link. The outreach director of Mainstream Conservation Trust will speak to us. Please rise as you're willing and able. Those in the sanctuary may choose to hold hands. Let's try a circle. We got enough. Let's do a circle.